go with a disclaimer.
Take the next left onto West Mount Morris Road, then turn right onto the ramp to Saginaw.
I'm not here for followers. Not here for, I don't know, any kind of nonsense. I don't care for politics.
Turn right onto the ramp to Saginaw, then merge onto I-75 North.
I think some relatively educated guesses, but at the same time, I don't care enough about politics to really engage myself in them too much. Probably because I rarely run into
Continue on I-75 North for 24 miles.
I don't know, but if I did lean one way, it'd definitely be fiscally conservative. I think for obvious reasons. For the obvious reason I'm making this channel. For the obvious reason to learn something and to possibly help anybody who's relatively been in similar situations as myself. My videos are going to be long, they're going to be drawn out. Like I said, I wouldn't consider this something like a normal YouTube channel. I really wouldn't. I don't think I'm smarter than anybody. I don't think I'm better than anybody. I don't think, you know, whatever. I'm not arrogant. However, I'm confident with what I think and what I feel, and definitely know that I'm an expert in my life and the things surrounding it. However, other things outside of it, I usually go with what I would consider to be the best evidence, try to live the best I can, be the best I can. Yeah, I'm not looking to argue with anybody. Or anything like that. Probably more for like-minded individuals or people with similar backgrounds, etc. The biggest part of my life in the last couple of years has been just about getting back on the ball. You know, recovering from, you know, serious addictions and a very troubled past, the way I grew up. How I got here today. It's been an extremely difficult journey. However, I don't just believe, I know from personal experience, you know, that there's a real freedom, there's a real peace of mind, a real goal and purpose in life if you really want it to be that way. guess I'll start out with a little bit of my background, but like I said, it's not like somebody has to live my life verbatim, or anything like that. That's not, like I said, I'm kind of looking for like-minded people and maybe similar backgrounds. However, backgrounds vary. We can all kind of get to the same place, just by different routes. Most of the stuff when it comes pertaining to my life, it took me years to even be able to talk about, to accept, or even remotely understand. It took a long time, a lot of struggle. I never wanted to face the fact of certain things, about my character, about things I had, developed throughout life. Serious character defects, etc. Things like anger, drug abuse, just all out not being a friendly person. Let's put it like that. Let's put it like that. I only laugh not because it's funny, but a little bit of a minimization there. Anyways. That's one thing about me, man. I laugh at tragedy, so please try not to take it the wrong way. It's not because I think the tragedy itself is actually funny. I think it's the insanity of it. What do you want to call it? I think if I just responded with tears or really just dug in on it, especially with tragedies in the world, I would just be depressed all the time, and for me that'd just be poisonous. I gotta laugh at the nonsense. I gotta laugh at the insanity. Do my best, do my part to not, make the world a worse place, but make it a better place. Okay, here we go. I grew up with a single mother, 2 siblings, in the inner city of the biggest city in my state. We're very poor. Mother was on welfare. Me, my brother, and my sister, we had different fathers, and none of them were there. So far as I know, all of our fathers were alcoholics, etc. The typical kind of cliche inner city kid story. Grew up with no template for life. No expectations. No love. I was just another unwanted kid. So I adopted, a street attitude of living on the streets. And I coped with, basically being an unwanted kid, through violence, through stealing, through rage and anger. It's most certainly not an excuse for any of my behavior. However, that's how I expressed it. That's how me and my peer group expressed ourselves, and given that environment and stuff like that. In our backgrounds, all my friends had very similar backgrounds to to myself, parents weren't together, family dysfunction, stuff like that. So we grew up really poor. And in this video, throughout, I like to kind of throw in some caveats and, some disclaimers. I'm about personal accountability. I'm not about any kind of victim status. Even when I was victimized as a child, when I had no control over my life, I still don't use that as an excuse for any later behaviors or negative actions on my part or dysfunction on my part. Once you reach a certain age, you're responsible for your behavior, and you're responsible for how you interact with the world. Even if nobody was there to teach you anything better, unless you're a complete sociopath, unless you had no conscience, and lack the ability to have a conscience, then I would say we are two very different people. Because I always had a conscience and I always knew what I was doing was wrong. I just did nothing to change it. It's not that I couldn't understand that what I was doing was wrong. I'm all about accountability. I'm of mixed race, Native American and white. And, the world wasn't necessarily nice or fair to me. However, before you go thinking I'm, going to blame shit on something else, no, absolutely not. Like I said, I still believe in personal accountability and responsibility. It was shitty that my family didn't accept me, and even made really nasty comments about Native Americans to my face. And that really, bothered me as a kid. That really made me feel unwanted and, made me feel worthless as a kid. But it's not an excuse for anything I'd ever done or my point of view or the way I interacted with the world. It didn't relieve me of any responsibility to anything. And like I said, I don't see the world the way most young people do these days. Meaning, it doesn't matter to me what race you are, what color you are, where you came from. No matter what, it's always your own personal responsibility to make something of yourself. And the world didn't make it so you couldn't make something of yourself. It's always up to you. You want to live a life of crime, or if you commit crime, it's because you choose to, not because you're forced to. Nobody made me steal. Nobody made me lie. Nobody made me fight. Nobody made me go to jail. They were all choices that I had made. I grew up in the worst part of Minneapolis, doing the same shit everybody else was doing. And the only difference between myself and some of the other people I grew up with is some of us finally grew up and understood that our lives were going to be terrible if we chose our lives, if we wanted it that way. The state had nothing to do with it. Minneapolis police, they had nothing to do with whether our lives were going to be good or bad. We understood that if we stopped committing crime, the police left us alone, no matter what your color was, no matter who you were. Oh yeah, I mean, they legally frisked us, they would harass us, you know, without necessarily doing nothing. But you know what? Later on that night, we were stealing cars. Later on that night, we were fucking shit up. And the police weren't stupid. They knew we were doing that shit. You know, but whatever. So I'm not trying to digress here. It's just in my personal experience, you know, not being born a part of the privileged group, I guess that's what some people like to call it. I was never part of a privileged race or a group. And, you know, life was shit. Life was shit because I made it that way. You know, if we don't have anything and if we're not doing well, it's because of the choices we made. We stopped going to school. We quit going to school. We didn't go to school at all. We didn't go to school at all. We did shit that was illegal. And just because somebody couldn't prove, because they didn't have us on video camera or fingerprints, doesn't mean we were any more innocent. We were breaking the law, so the police were breaking the law to get us. You know what I mean? Like, if you really think about it, you know, whatever. However, I'm not making excuses for any kind of brutality. You shouldn't be murdered. You shouldn't be murdered by the police if you steal a candy bar. If you get caught stealing and you're not trying to kill the cop, you shouldn't lose your life. So I definitely don't, I'm not making a case for the police. I'm just saying there's a gray area. Everywhere in life there's a gray area. And most people in this world will agree with me up until the point the gray area doesn't benefit them. Then all of a sudden it's, well, this is right and this is the way it should be. I can't stand having conversations with people like that. I try to be as honest as possible, whether the information will make me look good or whether it'll make me look bad. That's a massive part of recovery. That's a massive part of getting better. Is being honest. And like the old cliche, if you're not honest with yourself, you're only cheating yourself. That is a fact. Doesn't matter if somebody believes your bullshit or not. At the end of the day, it's always, you know, are you doing right by yourself? Are you being honest with yourself? And that's not easy to do. But I'll tell you one thing, to escape the streets, escape that mentality, escape the bullshit, you got to be brutally honest with yourself. You got to be able to look in the mirror and say, I have fucked up. I have made serious mistakes. And I have nobody to blame but myself for my unhappiness. Once you're able to do that, that is a massive step. I found that in my own personal experience, that if you're able to do that, roughly about 70% of your problems will start fixing themselves. you got to be able to be honest. You got to be able to knock yourself down a peg. And you don't have to have a history as bad as mine to be able to say something like that. There's plenty of people in this world who don't use drugs, who have never been in trouble, who could seriously benefit by doing exactly what I said, by looking in the mirror and being honest with themselves. If you have an excuse for why your life is not working out, you have failed. You have already failed. It doesn't matter what anybody has ever done to you. You are always the master of your own behavior.
In 2 miles, take exit 151 for Michigan 81 toward Reese Caro.
Of your own behavior. And what happens to you in a... I mean, not everything, obviously, because you can't control the entire world, but you can control how you act. And you can control how you look at the world. But it's nobody else's fault. You know, that if you can do that one thing, I guarantee things will get better. Because what's the alternative? What's the alternative? Let's just go for 1 second and say, okay, the world was terrible to you. It was bad, etc., etc. You're right. You've been hurt. Okay. I'll agree with you there. Now, what has that done for you? So now you can say the world needs to change?
In half a mile, take exit 151 for Michigan 81 toward Reese Caro.
So if you're smart, you can look in the mirror and say that does you absolutely nothing. It gets you nowhere. It has gotten you nothing. It is not a solution to anything.
Take exit 151, then keep left at the fork.
It's just giving you another day to procrastinate off and to
Keep
delude
left at the
yourself
fork.
into thinking that life is terrible for you and it can't get any better, etc. Like I said, what will that ever do for you? It serves no benefit. It gives you nothing.
In 150 feet, at the traffic circle, take the third exit.
It's just a way to stay stuck. No matter who you are, no matter where you come from, no matter what your background is, no matter what your ethnicity is, that will never benefit you. It will never save you. It will never help you. The world owes you nothing. You're not deserving.
In 600
or owed
feet, at the
anything
traffic
because
circle,
you're just
continue
a
straight
human.
onto Michigan
I
81
love that
West,
one.
East
I
Washington
makes me
Road.
laugh a little bit. I'm a human, so I'm entitled to this. You ain't entitled to shit. The faster you accept that, the faster you understand that, the better your life will get. You don't like something, change it. Find a solution. Make your life better. Because nobody is going to do it for you. There are no laws. There is no legislation in this world that could help you out. If you really think about it, we could make a law today. How about the law to make you happy? If we passed that law today, you wouldn't be any happier than you are today or tomorrow. Everything would still be the same. And that's why it always comes from within. Always comes from within. I tell myself that every day. Every time I get upset, every time I feel that I'm wronged, or I feel like people or the world has mistreated me or anything like that, I bring it straight back to myself. That's It's fine, but what good does it do me? It doesn't put food on my table. It doesn't pay my bills. Fuck, it doesn't even make me feel better to be able to blame. So I'm getting close to my stop. But here we go. There is freedom from insanity. There is freedom from
In a
drugs.
quarter
There
mile,
is
turn
freedom
right
from
onto
the
Veterans
law.
Memorial Parkway.
There's a good life to be had. It can be done. I've been in some of the most horrible positions that you could possibly imagine on this planet. And I went
Take the
from
next
that
right
to
onto
making
Veterans
really good
Memorial
money
Parkway. Then
to
you'll
having a
arrive at
good
your
life.
destination.
You know, but I work at it every day. I'm not perfect. I still get angry. I still get unhappy. However, I do have more peace of mind. And my problems are just that much smaller. And I don't have to be on drugs, and I don't have to, you know, drift off into some other world. I can be present and enjoy life today and enjoy it the way it is. I know, so with that, I will move on here, and hope to see you again on this road to recovery, and have a good day, guys.